Welcome to Visual Dressage. This video is the Proceed to Point tutorial. Simple proceed to point actions. The action type Proceed to Point is probably the most common tool you will use when creating your dressage test. It is simply a way for you to describe a path around the arena. Using Proceed to Point to draw paths around the arena is really simple. Using our empty dressage test, first add a new sequence to the movement using the Add New buttons. The new sequence will start off with a red border and traffic light to tell you a problem. The problem here is simply that we have not told the program which points we want to include. Anytime that you will come across a problem like this, read the red text at the bottom, which will tell you what the issue is. When it comes to adding points, you have a choice of either typing in letters manually or by clicking on the diagram. We'll start by clicking on the diagram, as this shows you how easy it is to draw paths in Visual Dressage. First, click in the Proceed to Points text box. We need to do this first to give the text box focus. If we didn't do this, when we clicked on the diagram, the program wouldn't know which text box it is supposed to write letters into automatically. Remember, each movement could have several different sequences, each with their own Proceed to Point actions. Having given the text box focus, it's simply a matter of clicking on points on the diagram. Let's start by clicking on X, S, H, C, M, and finally R. If you look at the text box, you can see that the program has now automatically entered these letters for you, separated by commas. There are a couple of things happening that you may not initially realize. Although we didn't tell the path to start at point A, it realized that the last thing we did was at point A. That was the transition we made as we entered the arena. So it automatically inserted the extra line to take you from point A to point X. Where possible, Visual Dressage will always try and fill in the gaps if it can, meaning you don't have to explicitly describe each and every line. The second thing the system automatically figures out is when you're in the corner of an arena. For example, at point H going to point C, it knows that it needs to draw the path into the corner and not simply draw a straight line between the points. When adding points to your path, you are not confined to using just the main letter points. It's possible to use the midpoints between them also. In Visual Dressage, we give these midpoints their own letters, in a similar way to the main points which you will be used to seeing. In Visual Dressage, the midpoint is a combination of the two main arena letters that you will be between. So if you wanted to use a point between X and B, simply type XB as one word without spaces or commas. It's probably simpler just to click on the diagram, which is what we'll do now. The only slight complication that you'll need to remember is that these midpoints always follow a rule of using the letter nearest to the centre first. So in our example, XB is valid, but the word BX wouldn't be. If in doubt, always start in the middle of the arena and work away from the centre. If your path isn't the way you want it, you can change it simply by editing the letters. For example, if we change our starting point X to point L, the path will be updated accordingly. Similarly, if you want to remove points, simply delete them from the string. We'll remove point C from our example and see how it draws a straight line across from H to M. Finally, when using Proceed to Point, you first need to set the pace that you will want to use. We'll look at transitions in a bit more detail in another tutorial, but for now we need to look at them quickly to show you how to change the pace you are using, and therefore the type of line that gets drawn by the program. All new tests will include a default transition at point A, as you enter the arena, of a working trot. Go to the transition sequence and change the pace to collected canter on the diagram. You'll see that the line has now changed colour in dot dash pattern. Thank you for watching this tutorial. Please see our website for more tutorials.